Hi, College One. I'm Catherine, one of the PCC librarians, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a few research basics, some vocabulary you might hear around research in the library, some tools you have as a PCC student, and your support team. After this presentation, you'll be able to recognize the research skills you use already in everyday life, define some research terms such as sources, citations, and credibility, explain the benefits of searching for information in library databases, and you'll know how to contact PCC librarians for all of your research needs. So you may or may not be familiar with academic or college level research, but we all do different types of information seeking and research in our everyday lives. And so I would just invite you to reflect on that for a minute, whether you're researching the side effects of a medicine you might be considering taking, determining who you want to vote for in the next election, or trying to find a good restaurant in your neighborhood. We all are always searching for accurate and up-to-date information. And so we'll be working on transferring some of those existing skills to the academic context during the course of College One. A few key terms when it comes to research. One is sources, of course. This just means where your information comes from. So depending on what type of information you're looking for, it could come from a book, of course, something like a newspaper or magazine, a personal interview that you conduct, a YouTube video, a social media post. A source is just where your information comes from, and sometimes with an assignment you'll be required to use a particular number of sources. There are two types of sources, generally speaking, popular and scholarly. A popular source would be something like a magazine or a newspaper. These are usually written by journalists and have relatively brief and easy to understand articles, usually not written at a super advanced level. They're pretty accessible. They often include photos and advertisements, and they do not generally include citations, which we'll talk a bit more about in a second. Scholarly sources include scholarly or academic journal articles, which you may or may not be familiar with. They're usually written by experts in a particular field. They tend to be long and complex and have advanced vocabulary in them. And they go through a rigorous editing process called peer review. And they include citations. So that's another thing to look for when you're trying to determine whether a source is scholarly. And sometimes, again, for college research assignments, you'll be required to use scholarly sources. A citation is a reference to a source. So we were talking about different types of sources. For research papers or projects you do in college, you'll be required to cite your sources, CITE, which means including citations, a list of all the sources you used and referred to when writing your paper. Keywords are words or phrases that we use to search for information. So this could be searching through Google. It could be searching in a library database. In this case, I've used the terms pet ownership, benefits, and children in order to find information. And so those are my keywords or main terms for this search. Credibility is a characteristic we look for in our sources. So it means trustworthiness, believability, or authority. And we'll talk a little more about that later in the semester. So our final term is database. A database is a collection of data or information that's organized for rapid search and retrieval. So you can think of something like Netflix, which is a database of streaming movies, or Yelp, which is a database of consumer reviews of businesses. Library databases are searchable electronic collections of articles, streaming videos, ebooks, and images. And these are things that you have access to free as a PCC student. And I want to go over some of the reasons you might want to consider using library databases when you're doing research. So we're going to discover their superpowers. This is an example of one of our library databases called Gale in Context Biography, where you can find information about all kinds of important people. So one of the reasons we use databases is because they can save you money. So especially when you're searching for scholarly journal articles, they can be very expensive. For example, in this instance, an article that I found free through a PCC library database would cost $40 for the same journal article if I tried to access it through a Google search. So we never want you to pay for articles, sources that you're looking for. We always want to help you find them free in our databases. They are also tend to have higher quality sources inside databases on a whole. So for example, if you're looking for information, in this case on internet addiction, this is an example of a commercial website that has information on the topic. This is an example of an encyclopedia article from a library database. They are both about internet addiction, but one of them could be biased, right? Because they have an incentive to making you maybe concerned that you have an internet addiction disorder because it's from a rehab center where you would go for help with that disorder. Whereas the encyclopedia article, they're just providing information. They don't have any sort of stake or bias. They just want to inform you. That's the purpose of it. So you can be a little more secure about the objectivity of sources and databases. They also have filters, so databases can help you find what you need very quickly. For example, if you need a scholarly or peer-reviewed journal article, you can click on a box like this that says scholarly or peer-reviewed journals, and you will only see results that match that criteria. Or if you're looking for something very current or up to date, you can filter by publication date. So in that sense, some of the database filters make it easy to find the type of information or the types of sources that you need quickly. So you'll see that once we get into searching in databases and practicing that later in the semester. They also give you tools. So we've been talking about citations, and one thing that's great that databases do is generate citations for you. So if you find an article you want to use, you can click on the cite button in a database there, or another example is here. And the database will actually generate a citation for you, so you don't have to do it from scratch. You can also do things like email articles to yourself, save them to your Google Drive, all kinds of good tools inside databases. And finally, convenience. So you can access PCC library databases anytime, anywhere. When you're off campus, as we are all now, you will need to enter your Lancer Point login and password in order to verify that you're a PCC student and get access to those databases. And finally, I just want to mention your research support team. So I, along with our 7 other full-time librarians, are here to help you with all of your research needs throughout the semester. So whether that is finding sources, citing sources, evaluating sources, that's what we're all about, or helping you find a good research topic, any of that. So we're available through chat, Zoom consultations, phone consultations, as well as email. Our website is pasadena.edu/library, and when you click on Ask a Librarian, you will find all the different ways you have of getting help from us. Thanks so much.